for a side hustle, you want to really pick something that you know, something that you're good at. Most people decide to turn things into money that they wish they knew, they wish they could get, they wish they had that skill, but they forget to completely assess what they already know and have done for the entire life. And most of the time, we all have these skills, and it's not a rocket science to turn it into cash flow. Hello and welcome to Business Helpline. We decided to sort of introduce this new segment in our business where time to time, I go online and answer your questions because you guys have been part of the community for quite a while. And sometimes I do get questions through email and it's so hard to respond to everybody. So we decided to run this beautiful business helpline time to time. And yeah, I hope it's going to be fun. I hope it's going to be of value. Right, so let's get started and let's look at what we have. So here is our form that, all the submitted questions. Right, so Allison sent in a question which was about, her business, and she said, how do I take my fitness studio to a new level? Facebook ads just don't seem to be generating quality leads anymore. Where to go from here? So I totally get it. When you look at what's happening with Facebook ads overall, and when I sort of look at our clients and sort of people who come through the door in our business, I wouldn't say that Facebook ads don't work anymore. I think they do work and they work very well. However, they are harder than ever before. And the threshold of entering the game with Facebook ads is becoming quite tricky. Now, there are things, however, that you can do. And it really boils down to like how you're advertising and what your ads are and what's your funnel, right? So one thing that I would first look at is if you're running paid ads, can you shift the strategy in a way that you have been doing them? So there are a few things, right? Like first of all, creatives. So now that, with all these iOS changes and so forth, what often happens that, like the Facebook targeting is quite off. So really thinking about your creatives as a way to target people and using your creatives as criteria to attract the right clients is quite important. So by that I mean that you need to make sure that the way you do your videos, the way you do your graphics, that they not only that they stand out, but they really manage to target the right person. Because for example, when we did one of the sort of more successful sort of ads recently, we took an angle of a social media manager. Social media managers are leveraging AI and ChatGPT, right? To use that as a criteria for the person scrolling through their feed. So that was one thing that we had, and that we have done quite well in the past year, is that we looked at these creatives as like I really think about the client that I want to hook and invite into my business. And I create those creatives for them to stop them in their feed and sort of come in, right? So how can you bump up your creatives? How can your creatives become better? How can you really step up the entire game there before you say that possibly it doesn't work? Obviously, the other aspect is media buying, right? Is like actual the tech side of things, how you set up your ads and how you run it overall. So we're not going to go into that. And for that, usually I just prefer to find the right people to help, right? Another thing that I would do in your case, Allison, I would become even more specific, even more localized in a sense of and trying to get the leads in a way that possibly not only inviting people to buy and opt in and sort of become a member directly, but also offer something that is very localized, something like, say, if you were based in London, you'd possibly do a freebie, something along the lines of 21 Pilates exercises for Londoners, right? And you sort of put that word Londoners in, so it's not a general sort of health freebie of any kind. It's very targeted, it's very specific to your audience. So that's another thing that I would do. I would do very localized freebie or sort of a low ticket offer to get people to come into your business. And again, I do not know your funnel. I don't know how you have been running, your ads. But I would think of, and there were quite a few questions here from brick and mortar businesses, so physical businesses who are in that space, and they struggle to get clients, struggle to get leads. I would think of how can I create something like an offer online, such as a mini course, a PDF, a sort of a guide, something that is paid, right, and run it on ads. Run it, through paid ads, hoping and sort of calculating that the sales from that offer cover your ad costs, and that the lead that you then get, which is, then essentially is a buyer because they had bought your freebie or sort of a low ticket offer. Well, once they grab and buy that would have covered your acquisition costs, and then them coming and joining your studio membership, trying to be creative how you can get that client. So I was consulting this other company recently, and they are a boutique resort and spa, and again, they are struggling a lot with custom acquisition via ads. So I helped them build out a offer that pays for itself, that people buy it, and then come and stay with them after that. So basically, that the first sale is not actually a stay with them, but it is rather a a guide, and people purchase the guide, and then they are in the list, and and they're being promoted too. So this is what really happens with ads currently, right? That the costs are so high that you really need to be creative how you go about running your ads, how you go about running, getting your leads. Obviously, there are things like TikTok ads that could possibly work, and so forth. One of my fave funnels that ever existed is a quiz funnel. So where people go through a quiz, self-identify as a buyer for your product. I did one quiz about, it was last year, on memberships, so how you basically can integrate a membership into your business, and sort of people self-identify at which level of their journey they are at, and how they can then grow and scale, right? Right, so the next question is from Robert, and it's an audio question. Right, so I'm gonna just sort of reiterate the question. So Robert was asking, how he can be using SEO to sort of promote his business and his affiliate marketing business, a new site that he has built up, and how can SEO be part of that. Here I'll say a few things. So first of all, I personally haven't done much SEO, so I am not I'm not going to claim to be a massive expert here, but we ran a call quite recently with our one of our AI experts in AI Growth Tribe, which is our membership, and his name is Pablo, and he's an SEO expert as well. And we were discussing a lot about how do you then use AI, ChatGPT for SEO, and he was saying that these are the golden days for that, because there's a smart way of utilizing ChatGPT, and we're discussing different strategies, and one of them would be to be using the ChatGPT Bible, which I assume you have, Robert, and producing a piece of content every single day with ChatGPT. So something that it doesn't have to be written by a human, right? It can actually be quite stock copy, that can be quite robotic, if you may. So that you sort of put these out for ranking on Google and so forth. So you use SEO that way. So you're putting out basically these articles leveraging ChatGPT Bible or just ChatGPT in itself. So putting out these articles on the niche topic that your site is around. I would put out an article a day at least, and I would sort of see the traction over a period of a month and see how that's doing. Now, I think when Pablo and I, our AI expert, when we discussed this whole thing, my concern was, the whole voiceless AI copy that would be on the site, right? But then his suggestion was to have obviously the tab for these sort of articles, but then have something separate, which would be possibly more of your sort of content that is like written by you or your team, that is more personal, that is actually connecting on that level. So say if I was to do that strategy, if I was to follow that strategy within my own business, what we would then do instead of, in addition to the video content, the articles that we have, we would be like having a section for, which would be like a blog or something, right? But then we'd have articles, which would be articles that are specifically targeting SEO and are written for that purpose. So then we'd like have articles about online funnels, memberships, ChatGPT, AI, like the core themes that we cover in our business, like would produce a lot of these articles, like 1 or 2 a day. So that could be an interesting strategy to explore. And I'm gonna share one link, which is, this is the company created by the AI expert who's working with us, called scalesleek.com. And this is a good tool to really use AI in optimizing your site. So it sort of does the keyword analysis for you, proposes the right keywords, and sort of like aids you in the content creation process. Right, so let's go further into our questions. So the next question that we have is, I think it's Thaza. So Thaza was asking, pro tips to advertise apps. I have very little resources to play with, and I need to reach at least 1K downloads in the first month. One thing that I would say that often happens, and I hear this a lot, and even when yesterday I wrote an email and I quoted a family member, he was asking how to make money fast and without working very hard, and my answer was to find a rich husband, and then she laughed. Like there is no sort of fast way to do that. When you start off a project, that basically requires a lot of that requires a scale, like a high sort of like it has to scale from the very beginning, right? It is quite tricky, and the reason for that is when you start off, there's no momentum. There's no scale, there's no momentum, and you just literally are trying to get going. So it's much easier to get going with 5 people than trying to find 1,000 people to download your app, unless obviously you have a community to which you launch. But then at that point you do have a certain level of scale, and you're able to go. And it's almost like getting on a highway and trying to sort of immediately go into the fastest lane there, and go from like first gear to fourth gear. So it's very, very hard to go from first gear to fourth gear. Like it's extremely, extremely hard. So the best way is obviously do that gradually. So the best way is to really, be in the first gear, be in the second gear, and sort of go up, right? So there's no friction, there's no sort of contortion in your vehicle, and you're able to go up on the sort of highway and then sort of go at 200 miles an hour, whatever that is, right? By the way, the best way to do that is, as I said, like is working with one person, working with 3 people, working with 5 people, rather than trying to go at scale. So for example, one of my language schools now has 2,000 subscribers. So it's 2,000 people paying monthly. So, but to get to that point, to get to that scale, like I didn't start the school with a membership, hoping to get this many people. I started the school simply teaching, right? Like at the time, that was my skill. I just started out, it was like 12 years ago or something. I just taught English, right? And then, so it wasn't that I went into sort of fourth gear trying to get 1,000 students in the first month, because that, at the time, was impossible. Now, in terms of Thaza's question, I do not know your situation, right? Like I do not know your predicament, right? Like you may have a list, you may have a fully functioning business, so you may not be in the stage that I was when I started out. But I would just say that how can you make it more actionable in a sense of really getting the first 10, getting the first 100, and so forth. Now, I understand that probably according to algorithms and so forth, you want to get the 1,000 downloads immediately and rank possibly in App Store and things like that, right? So I get that. Obviously, one way to do that is through paid advertising. If you do that smart, that's possible. Now it requires investment. So you did say that you have very little resources. So this is where sort of we run into that issue, right? So you know, like scale requires resources, and scale requires sort of certain brand and marketing around it, right? So for you to suddenly scale it that way, you wouldn't need basically a budget, right? To scale through paid ads, which it is possible if your app is the right fit for the market. I can't see why it wouldn't work. But to actually get that funnel going, to get the ads going, it would require some work. If it was me and I was launching an app, today I would do paid ads. I would develop an entire funnel around it. But the reason that I would do that is because our company is at the level where we have some resources. Like, we're not by any means like a massive company like, say the likes of Mindvalley with massive budgets, right? Like, we're a super small company with a team of like 25 people. And, but we do have some spare funds to invest in sort of launching a new thing. So I'd go that way through paid ads and build out a funnel. Now, if I didn't have a paid funnel, like if I didn't have sort of the resources to do that, obviously organic is the only way there. Organic, but you can then at least do organic strategically. You can do organic by parachuting yourself into other people's audiences. And by that, I mean putting together a list of, top podcasts, shows, and YouTubers in your industry who are not at the sort of like star level, because most likely you won't get through to them, but sort of mid-level entrepreneurs in your space who have presence and who have a list. And go out to them and speak at their webinars, seminars, podcasts, videos, and make sure that your talk, your interviews around the topic that your app is directly related to, that it becomes a no-brainer for the person to download it. Now, this is a very slow strategy. It's a marathon. And it usually works when you have when you do, say, client work, sort of high-touch service. When I didn't have a list, what I did, I would, and I had this program called Brand Story Bootcamp, where I taught sort of brand storytelling for companies and entrepreneurs. And I would find the people organically. I wouldn't advertise. And the way that I would do that is I would go and speak at sort of online events with these entrepreneurs. And I would probably get one or two from each event, coming and paying me, 5,000, 10,000, whatever that was at the time. But again, that was, it's a marathon strategy. So to get 1,000 downloads that way, again, is a tricky exercise that you may be setting for yourself. But I'm not saying that's impossible, but I'm just trying to sort of break down some realistic pathways that you can follow and that I would personally follow. But if you asked me, like, what I would do, if you said to me, well, your goal is to now launch this thing without an audience and hit the 1,000 downloads, what I would first do, I would build the audience, right? Like if my goal was to rank in Apple Store, I would build the audience first, right? It's almost like trying to write a book without having an audience. Like nowadays, even whether you are a fiction writer or you are a non-fiction writer, most publishers won't pick you up, but won't really like sign you on if you don't have a following, right? Like if you have a list, if you have a following, you're much more likely to get a deal, a book deal. But most of the time, those people who have an audience, they don't even need that deal per se, because the publisher knows that to sell books in sort of cold way and introduce you to the market is an extremely expensive thing for them. So then they will go out and rather find the writers, find the thought leaders, coaches, and whoever who can do these books and who have a following. So then they're first gonna, start selling to their audiences, pick up the momentum, and then the book can go out into the mainstream because all the conditions for success are there already, right? And your number one condition for success in this case would be having an audience. So I would encourage you to build that. I know it's not an easy task, but it's possible. It's definitely possible. Right, so we have Michelle's question here. Let me just share up on the screen. Right, so Michelle said, Hey Darius, how do I discover what I do wrong in my business? I offer even free things and people don't buy. How do I know if my problem is the way I make offers or if somehow I just deeply don't believe that anyone wants my offerings and that is reflected by the outcome, nobody buying, right? So this, essentially the question is around, how do you know whether my offer isn't working? Or are there any sort of like other external forces such as my internal beliefs that are making the offer flop, right? To be very honest with you, I think mindset is important in life and it helps for sure. I'm not gonna say that it doesn't, but most of the time it's an actual offer, right? It's not really that you don't think right about business and that you don't have self-belief or esteem, right, to do that, right? So what I would say is really it's not, most likely it's not self-esteem question, right? And there are cases where yes, it's important to cultivate your self-esteem, your sort of belief in the fact that you can achieve it, you can get it done. But I would say that's not the case with you, and I know that I think you were part of some of my memberships previously. I'm not sure if you're still a member. So I would say that it's still from working with you, Michelle, and sort of seeing your offers. I would say that your offers, from what I've read, and I've seen only a few, most of the time they lacked clarity and clear pain points. If in 2015, 17 even, you could put out an offer that was not very clear, that was more sort of general, and run it on Facebook ads, there was still a possibility that would work. Now it's not the case anymore. And the reason for that is that the threshold of entry is much higher, as I was sort of saying to Allison. Your offer has to be extremely clear and be solving that specific problem. And I know that you are in a spiritual niche. What I will say is that you can't launch an offer that sort of helps people with courage, for example, or with cultivating love in their lives, because that's too big and too broad, and nobody really knows what that means, right? Like we talked about it, I think before. Like if you help people with certain addictions, that's quite clear and tangible. So I would really even go back to this concept of ikigai, and the concept of ikigai is the way you do anything in your life and in your business is by marrying what you love, which is your passion and your mission. So I'm just pointing on the right, which is your passion and your mission, and also what you can be paid for, like profession and vocation, right? And then you look at what the world needs and what you're good at. When I work with people from sort of spiritual niche, with artists, creatives, people who in their work have to be a bit more abstract, they a lot of the time skip the what can I get paid for bit. They look at what I love and what my mission is and etc., but they don't really go down to the level of, what does the world really need, right? As much as you think that the world wants to be taught about love and they would buy an offer about cultivating love in your relationships, most likely people won't buy that. People may buy a course on escaping narcissistic relationships, and with a course being created for women, for example. That is likely to have some traction. But people won't buy a general course on love. So what I'm trying to say is, for Michelle, that you really need to still go into that sweet spot. And I would strip away all the layers of these big themes, and I would become very, very specific, very, very problem orientated. And I would speak out to those people. Now, this is quite specific also to Michelle because I have seen some of her funnels, but I would invite Michelle to go for more clarity and really think about the person that is the buyer. Like a lot of the time, when you go out to buy anything, right? Like when you are in a grocery store, you want specific things, right? Like if you're making soup, you want specific things, right? Like you're gonna add I don't know, beetroot or something, or potatoes in your soup, right? Like you're looking for them. You don't need anything else. Like you're very clear, right? So imagine the person they're out with their list in the world. Very few people name their problems as I'm not good at love. You know, people are not good at relationships. People are not good at romantic relationships with men, with women, whatever, right? Like people are not good in relationships in their 30s or 20s, or there is, you know, like the specific language that you can use. So usually people don't buy because the offer doesn't speak to them. And very honestly, I'll say I've launched a lot of offers that people did not buy. Say I launched a very good offer that I thought it was good, and I still think it was good, which was about storytelling in business, right? And it was meant to be advertised on Facebook, and it was, and it flopped. But the reason why it flopped was because it didn't have the hook. It didn't solve the problem. Like nobody really sat there and thought, I need to tell better stories in my business. Although I think that's important, but people only find out how important that is, for example, when they work with me for a while, when they sort of study marketing deeper, they understand that element could help them. But a lot of people think, I want to make more sales. My business model doesn't work. What do? They don't think that I need to tell a better story, right? And that offer failed. But that's okay. Like you literally learn from these failures, right? Right, so let's go further. Right, so we have Pina's question. As a realtor in Ontario, how can I use your plan to help me? I tried the ChatGPT prompt Bible, but I felt it was overwhelming and could not see how it would be able to help me as a real estate representative. If you can show with some example, it would be great. Right, so what I would say is the answer is very simple. If you have all of the 10,000 prompts, which I suppose you do, under the Business Owner's Bible, you have real estate and property management tabs. Like these are the only tabs, or and the property management 2 tab. But these are the tabs that you need to get started. And how do you use how do you use ChatGPT there? It's very simple. Simply, like you look at your business, you look at what you do, and you ask yourself, where do you need most help? What is stuck at the moment in the business? And is it ads? Is it your page? Is it client emails? Is it customer support? Is it like, communicating with tenants, for example, or buyers, right? And like say if it's buyers and tenants, you possibly go in here and you write some template, you write up some email templates. If it is, for example, you need to produce some ads, you go here and write real estate ad copy, you go here, you pull up one of the prompts about real estate ads, you fill in the blanks, bam, you got your ad, you go do the graphics, you run the ad, right? So I wouldn't say that it's very tricky. You simply, I guess, need to connect the actual problem that you're having currently in your business with the task that you're looking for in the Bible. Yeah, and that will be as simple as that, I'd say, honestly. For example, are you putting out a new property in the market? You go here and you write a new property description, right? Like you fill it out here and you see what it has to offer. Then you take the description, you tweak it obviously to make it sound more like you or your style of your company, and you put it out. So you want to really be connecting your task, the things that are difficult at the moment in the business that need most attention, you connect that to a particular task in the Bible, and voila, and you go to your copy and you go to your help there. So these are particularly, targeting real estate. Okay, so then the next question was from April. I've just relaunched an offer with extra incentives to buy. Here is the sales page. Why isn't it converting? Right, so what I would say about April's page, very quickly, not to make it too, hard to execute. This is what I would change. So the first thing that happens visually, the page looks overloaded with very intense backgrounds. So as you see, like super intense background back there, here, it sort of gives a slightly messy look to the page, which makes the text difficult to read. So number one, just like replace those. Number two, we want to see faces. Like that's a big rule. People connect with a human being, and later down the page, further down the page, you do have some of your pictures, which are beautiful. I would definitely see if I can put them up in the banner somewhere at the top that people can immediately relate to who they're speaking to. And if it wasn't your picture, then maybe do a mock-up of your product, something that, you know, like for example, we have this 7-figure page, right? Like it's a video, but you can see sort of my face at the top of the page, because that is trust, that is connection, that is authority, and safety, right? So you're implanting that into the prospective buyer's sort of mind and psyche as they come on, you know, onto your page. And I always say, like, be super, super clear in your page. Think of your, I don't know if you have children, but like think of your 5-year-old child, right? He would come onto the page, and a 5-year-old child would need to retell you, or maybe like 7-year-old child, but the child would need to tell you what this page is about. Would the child understand it? Because if you work with that clarity, or rather would the person who never did anything online, who never bought an online product, would they understand it? And if you think that they would, then great, right? You're getting there. What I would do here, I would adjust the banner. I would make it like, I would add your picture there. I would make it stand out, and boost your profits with holiday promotions. Slightly weak headline, I'd say. You have some really good stuff going on here. I would use some of the arguments that you made here. These are great. Imagine just for a moment that you had a simple process for creating a holiday special promotion that brings in an extra 10K or more in 2 days without relying on discounts. This is beautiful. This is really good copy. This definitely should be further up, right? Like this to me, like it needs reworking to make sure that it works for the top of the page, but it is very good. And you got the promise there, you got the parameters in terms of timelines, deadlines, frame, like, you know, you're saying you'll get it done in 2 days, you're gonna bring in an extra 10K, a lot of clarity there. So I would definitely bump it up somewhere here, or would use this bit of the copy to like create a nicely sort of formulated headline. Because you really wanna hook the person in at the beginning, right? I get like yesterday I ran a call in 7-Figure Accelerator, and I'll do a little bit of that here. I sort of broke down what we did in our most recent launch, and and you can see how clear we are from the beginning. So first of all, we go open for enrollment for the first time this year. We do urgency, scarcity, and we imply that the offer sort of is gonna expire quite soon, right? Then we go our best-selling all-in-one program that brings your online business to 7 figures without giving up your soul, sanity, or life savings, right? And then we go further to describe the offer and so forth. But you see how we are super clear, super punchy, and we already tap into we already communicating the promise, the dream goal. We are saying you're going to achieve these results without having to experience these pain points, right? That you're likely most sort of experience when you're building offers. So it sort of immediately connects, right? And like there's a picture, and there's it sort of looks clear. So I would ask what you can do here to do something similar. You have some really good copy across your page. I sort of scrolled through before the call. You have some good copy there. So I'd say copy is not the problem, just possibly rearranging it, rephrasing it here. But another thing that buttons sort of, because of this very intense background, the buttons get lost. One other thing that I would also say, I know that this page is done with Kajabi. I've had multiple pages on Kajabi. Kajabi is quite tricky with design. So I would say that with Kajabi, less is more. Sticking to a couple of primary colors that you picked, like one primary, one secondary color, and not like mixing and matching the styles is better, because there's that clarity. If you can replace, sort of make sure that these images are not blurred and they're actually high quality, would help a lot. and standardize how you sort of, do the page visually, because now there are a lot of colors going on here, and it's quite hard to, again, take in the page, right? But I would say that the colors and the blurred screenshots could be done a little better. So, you need to format them differently, right, to tidy up the page. This is great, like the time and so forth. But I would strip away the colors, the blurry backgrounds, make sure that the copy is outlined step by step, that a 7-year-old could understand it. I would make sure that the CTAs, the call to action buttons, are clear. They could even be green, because now they get lost a little. So these would be the main things. Obviously, it's a short call here, like I'm going over many questions, but at least if you work out the top of the page, that already would lift up your offer. The other thing that I would say, and I don't know whether you're running this offer through Facebook ads or you're selling it to your list, because I think the price was $174 it's $179 with a discount. So this is quite a lot if you're selling it through ads. If you're selling it to your list, then it's great. I mean, if you have a warm list, why not? It's a good price. If you're selling it through ads, it's going to be quite hard to sell it. So again, you'd need to match the price to your offer. So if you're running it through ads, I wouldn't do anything higher than $97. Like $37, $57, $87. These are the things that usually work. Very few people are managing to sell anything more than that via ad directly. Obviously, past the first purchase, yes, you can sell this, right? Like, if you're running this through Facebook ads, that you may want to maybe do a freebie, or rather sort of a low ticket offer where it's a guide, is something of a kind, a Notion template for Black Friday, and then the upsell is this course, for example, so then that could really work. So here are my thoughts for April. Let's go back to Catherine's question. So Katherine was asking, hello, we need Facebook ads for bridal boutique to be able to bring brides to our shop. Do you have a training on Facebook ads? Well, Katherine, keep an eye out on your email this Sunday. I'm gonna do a little teaser and preview here. We're launching a sort of Facebook ads, paid ads masterclass with our media buyer, who is super, quite genius in that. He's worked with some really big names in the industry and specializes in digital products. We're running a masterclass with him, and yeah, it's gonna be a good class. So I'm not gonna reveal much more than this. I would just say, check out the emails that go out on Sunday, and you'll hear more about this training, because we felt that there is the need in our community for something like that, for ads training. So it's coming up. It's coming up next Friday. And next one, we have Paul. So Paul says, so basic costs for me to call out and replace locks for customers. I looked into other locksmith prices. There seems to be a wide variation of prices open down the country. I have looked in the West Midlands, and again, they seem to vary for which independent job you are doing. So I guess Paul is asking how he should price his services, and whether he should be paying attention to the market prices, or should he be pricing it differently somehow? So there are a few things. In essence, if you are one of the people who does not have online presence, and are just one of the many locksmiths in the area, then probably your pricing is around what the market dictates, right? And you decide how you price your work. However, if you're social media savvy enough and you build up a bit of a profile, you have a page, even if it's a very simple page, with some testimonials, some client reviews and pictures, possibly some articles about that are relevant in your industry, possibly Instagram, Facebook, some sort of social presence. I mean, if you are extrovert, you want to do some TikTok, that would be brilliant. If you have some of that, like some of the organic stuff going on, or some Facebook ads even, you'd be able to boost up your profile and charge much more, because people would be going to you because they know you, right? So how can you be known in West Midlands, which I suppose that's where you live? How can you be known as the locksmith in the West Midlands, right? Like Google Ads is a great thing to do as well for you. And how can you possibly set it up in a way that you would stand out in the market, right? And the reason why I'm saying this is you can be charging like what others are charging, and I generally do not know the industry, but you could be charging what everybody else is charging. That's one way to do it. But another is to build up your profile in a way that you look like no other locksmith out there, and people would pay you whatever you want them to pay, because you'd have a certain authority there. And it even works for such industries as, so these brick and mortar industries as well. I would think, how can I be the number one locksmith in the West Midlands? That could even be your tagline, the number one locksmith in West Midlands, and create the whole identity around it. I remember how once I ran into this company who were plumbers in the UK, and they were female plumbers in the UK, and they had this whole branding around them being the only female plumbers in the UK, or in whatever like part of the UK that they were working in. And they were booked up like all year round, because especially women wanted to get women plumbers, because they felt safer with another female sort of visiting their house. And it was a very unique positioning of the business. So if in the traditional industries, such as your own, you are able to stand out, you are able to charge much more. So, I mean, that happens in any industry, but in traditional industries, most people do not know much about marketing. They are not very happy with social. They don't do that. But if you manage to do that, it's amazing. I mean, I would possibly do like an amazing photo shoot, some videos with yourself at work, and some like funky stuff, run it as Facebook ads, put it out on Google Ads, like name myself as number one in the West Midlands, and just sort of go wild. And as people get to know about you, be raising the prices to the level that you feel, that it's sort of reasonable within the industry. So that would be my best advice for Glenn. And so then we have one anonymous question. So I'm having trouble developing a marketing plan to get clients. I have a blog, it doesn't seem to drive traffic. I'm working on a website. First of all, it's extremely hard to comment because you didn't attach a link. I don't know the industry, obviously, that you're part of. I would go back to what I said to Robert at the start of the call, and using SEO strategy for sort of SEO-driven keywords. And that's the only way in which having your website works, really, besides possibly becoming prominent on Google. But overall, I would say, sort of doing the SEO articles, and then if in your industry you're sort of like creating and producing some of more sort of original, thought-provoking content, which is written by yourself, or filmed or audioed by yourself, then you can have a different section for that, right? Like just exactly as we spoke with Robert at the start of the call. One thing that I will also say, that setting up a website in and on itself isn't going to do much. I mean, just unless somebody Googles you, and then that reinforces your authority and identity in the field. But besides that, it really is not going to do much unless you're either going to actively drive people right to these to your blog and so forth. But another thing is, like when it comes to blogging in this day and age, again, I don't know whether you maybe brick and mortar business, which changes things, but I'd rather post on socials rather than do a blog, or drive a post on socials and then, you can put up your article on your blog, but it doesn't have to be, like you want to go where people are, and that is on LinkedIn, that is on Facebook, that is on Instagram, rather than trying to drive them from socials to your blog to consume the content, because like you introduce that level of friction that it doesn't really work. So how can you directly connect to people and talk about what you need to talk about and offer your services, and then as a result of that, maybe drive to your site if they need to, like either book in a call or buy something, but be out there first. Having a website, having a blog is secondary, unless you're pursuing an active SEO strategy, Google ads and so forth. Then yes, obviously, everybody and anybody should have a site. I'm not saying that one shouldn't, but I'm saying unless it's a part of your conscious strategy in itself, it's not going to do much, right? So you need to be clear how having a website is going to serve your business. So for me, sometimes we'd create a page for a particular offer, but the site in itself wouldn't generate much views or revenue or visits, because even in terms of content, we go out to people. Like we put the content out into our groups, we send it out via email. We don't take people out of those channels because channels don't like it. So Facebook hates when you take them out to your site, and you just want to enable them to consume your content just like that, right? So I would rethink your strategy that way. But again, I'm answering in very general terms because there's not much information here, so I can only guess of what your predicament currently is. Okay, so we have Lary's question, and it's a video.
Darius, Lary Verdone here. I'm in the home service business, and I own a water filtration company called Fix Any Water, and I work in the residential and commercial spaces. And I'm looking for something, trying to use your platforms to convert customers who visit us over to a form fill, which eventually leads to a lead. And I like to know how to capitalize on the tools that you have. And secondly, how do I create a kind of a side hustle using your services where I don't have to visit a customer and I can sell something online per se? I appreciate the help.
Right. So in terms of, using some of the online business strategies for your business, as well as creating your own offer, Lary, I would look into the membership that we have. So 7-Figure Accelerator is really covering every aspect and every element of an online business, or adding in that element of an online business to your physical business. So in terms of generating leads and building out a certain sort of level or layer of digital in your business, I think 7-Figure Accelerator is probably the main offer currently. And I think things that we spoke about earlier with Allison, we devised some sort of strategies and sort of how Allison could have leveraged certain strategies for her fitness studio. You could apply those as well. And now when it comes to a side hustle, the easiest way to create a side hustle is to tap into what you already know, have access to. And that can be, well, in your case, I would look into your current business and in terms of your clients, what questions are they asking? What help are they needing that can be provided online and that you can charge for, obviously, so that you create something for the demand that already is there, for the people that you have contacts with and what you're known for, right? So if you work in the water filtration industry, is there anything there that can be done? Are there questions that people are asking that need answering in a certain template or guide? Is there any type of product or type of service that can be made into a recurring product, recurring membership? This can be maintenance, this can be filters, this can be multiple other things, but is there anything within your service that can be turned into a subscription, into a recurring revenue model. Now, if you see that, well, there isn't much really, because it's a very high-touch business where you really need to go to the client's home and be there and help them. If that's the case, I would then look into in terms of building a side hustle, which I suppose you'd want to be online. I would look into what are the other things that you're very good at, and it would be like simply a no-brainer for you to put together. Because I recently had somebody with a slightly similar question. They were having a very physical business, and they said, well, we want to create something online, we want to move online, and they decided to buy this company that did certain wrapping product, like a physical cling film product. And these people that I talked to, that I was consulting, they were not very good with online marketing. They never done it, and for them to sort of build that business up would have been extremely hard. So we worked through that, and we clarified that is not something that they can do, because it's simply they don't have a skill set, and for them to acquire that skill set or to acquire people who have this skill set, is too costly for their budget. And they were not at that stage in their life that they wanted to do that either. So the question is, at this stage in your career, what are the things that, or in your personal life, that you can turn into an offer, that you can build a membership around, that you can build a low ticket product around, meaning an online course, that you can provide a one-to-one service. What is that, right? What can you offer? So going back, I'll sort of circle back to the example that I gave somebody on this call already. Well, when I started out in the online space, I didn't sort of make the leap to say, teaching what I teach now, right? I first looked at my skill set and I thought, okay, well, I'm very good at languages. I'm just going to teach English, right? And I did that online. And then I built a business out of it. But also, I selected the skill that was very easy for me to teach and to monetize. The next thing that I did, again, I used to then, I continued building the first thing was then coming up with the next. And the next thing that I did was, I was already, I had a lot of experience in writing professionally, more sort of in the traditional industries, journalism, theater. So I went into copywriting and storytelling for companies and brands. And I worked for some big companies in Asia, writing stories and client interviews for them. Right, so then again, I sort of identified that particular service skill that I had, and I then monetized that. You really want to, for a side hustle, you want to really pick something that something that you're good at. Maybe there was some advice in your career, in your business that you've seen that all new home buyers sort of make. Is there anything for them that you can create? What were the most, what are the questions that you're hearing the most around, right? Even for example, this call, the reason why I decided to run it was because I would just keep getting questions via email and through friends who asked me, how do you do X in your business? How do you do this in your business? How is this working, right? And I said, well, okay, I'm going to run this, right, business helpline for fun, for free, and just answer all these questions. So you really need to have your ear to the ground, and then have your sort of metaphorical ear to your own experience. Asking yourself what can I then take that I already know and teach, sell, promote, that I immediately have an authority of and over. So going back to, for example, this client that I consulted who then wanted to buy this cling film business company. We discovered that they were very good at, and that their passion was sort of astrology. And one of the people owning the company, they were an astrologer, they sort of trained in that. And they liked it, and they did it for fun, right? And I said to them, well, this is the thing that you're going to sell fast, because that's something that you've done for 10 years. You know how to do it. You already have clients coming to you. This has been your side gig for forever. Sometimes they didn't charge for it. Sometimes they did. I said, if you monetize this, if you focus on this, this is going to be your next side hustle. and you don't have to worry about your very sort of brick and mortar business. And sometimes like that's really in the like super clear, right? Like maybe it's fishing, maybe it is knitting, whatever that is that you're very good at. So how can you take that skill, turn it into a course, turn it into a one-to-one, turn it into a service, turn it into a product? Is there a product that you know very well that you can sell, like even if it's a like water filtration systems, right? So I think that there are multiple things that you can explore, but the first thing is always, as for every entrepreneur, is tapping to their self-awareness, becoming super aware of what my skills are, what my weaknesses are, what my talents are, and what is the fastest thing that I can turn into money, right? And most people decide to turn things into money that they wish they knew, they wish they could get, they wish they had that skill, but they forget to completely assess what they already know and have done for the entire life. And most of the time, we all have these skills, and it's not a rocket science to turn it into cash flow. But there's that switch. Maybe even going back to Michelle's question, where she spoke about this sort of her self-esteem in terms of creating offers, and asking whether it was self-esteem that was causing low uptake of her courses, right? And I said, and it's sort of not low self-esteem, but rather being able to have a level of self-awareness and the market awareness, right? Like understanding what's happening in the market currently, what's happening within you and what you're capable of, and what you can put out into the world that would like have success and traction, and people would opt in for, and people would buy. Once you do that, or in other words, the Ikigai principle, right? Like that sweet spot in the middle between what you love, what you can get paid for, what the world needs, right? And what you're good at. Like that sweet spot is where your offer really is, as basic as it sounds. But a lot of us like try to ignore parts of that Ikigai chart, and we just focus on what we love, or we just focus on what we're good at, but we do not focus on what the world needs, what the market needs, or what we can get paid for. But once we align all the four, brilliant things happen. So if there are any other questions that you guys want to ask, drop it under this video. I'll either comment back to you or address it on the next call. We'll see when we run it next time. Maybe we'll do one more before Christmas. Who knows? Anyway, thanks for listening, watching the recording, and I'll see you very soon.